So, really quickly, you may not know what Society the horror movie is, and it's better watched than explained. And I would advocate that you go watch that movie first before you watch the review of this comic book, the sequel to it, because you may not understand what's going on, and it would kind of ruin the movie for you. That's just my advice before we dive into this. Anyway. Alright, so this is Society Party Animal, which is the sequel to the actual movie Society. This is by Rough Cut Comics. I got these shipped over to me from the UK, where Rough Cut, I believe, still sells them on Amazon. They're like, or the internet really, they're impossible to find. My advice is to switch your Amazon over to amazon.usa to amazon.uk, and you'll be able to get, find these on there. And I got them for $10, $15 for both issues, which is like the full sequel, because there's issue 1 here. This is issue 1, and this is 2 here, which you can't really see, but it's 2. So anyway, if you've seen the movie Society, you know how it ended, what happened at the end, this thing called the shunting. And you won't be surprised by what happens in these comic books. If you haven't seen the movie, like my PSA, go watch it. Anyway, we return 10 years later after Billy has escaped the clutches of the sinister breed within Los Angeles and flees with his high school pal Milo and society girlfriend Clarissa into a world he knows is manipulated by the rich. And it shows in this first comic book, which it's not, here, let me turn that light on. And I'll adjust this. So it shows what the shunting is, which is what happening here at the beginning to this old guy. The art in this first issue, whoever the fuck did it, I'm not even going to, let's see. Art director Jim Cunningham. Let's see. Art by Shelby Robertson. The art isn't bad, but the way that it's used in the panels and told is god awful. You don't even know what's happening here, really. There's an old man. He doesn't look afraid in any way. He looks completely fine. And he's being licked by this woman. There's a bunch of people by a car. He sticks his hand in his mouth. There's all these weird shapes now. Nothing is explained. You have no idea what's going on. The blue here and the red narration bubbles are Billy from the first movie talking to somebody, and we believe it's on a radio show or something about his run-in with the society, the rich. They're these different breed of beings on the planet Earth, but it's very vague in what they are. So anyway, let's get this going. Billy shows up and blows him away because of what they're doing to this old dude. And he explains, this is kind of like the movie. He explains kind of what happened. He's been on the road, on the run. And now he's ran back into Milo again, who is the other kid that escaped with him in the movie. And Billy's kind of lost his mind. He's like, I gotta continue fucking killing the society, because what they do is they feed off the poor. It's a metaphor for the rich feeding off the poor. And, he's writing all these things on the internet. This is a 2002 comic book. He's writing all the things on the internet about society and about how, they do the shunting, which is like a giant flesh sex orgy that, They feed on people. So Milo's a dumbass, and he calls society and tells them where him and Billy are after 10 years on the run, because he says that they've agreed to put them back into the regular world. They don't have to be on the run anymore. And so they're knocked out, and they're taken away. And again, if you were reading the story here, it would be harder to decipher what's going on in these panels when it's talked about what's going on. Basically, this doctor who works for the society reveals that when they eat people, sometimes they'll get their diseases or something, and they have to like push them out of their flesh orgy and feed it, or get rid of it. And here they're feeding shit to Billy. They fist him, and they reveal to Milo that that he's no use to them like Billy is. Billy is a use to them because he was able to kill one of them, which they are not sure why. But Milo is no good to them. So she gets undressed, they all get undressed, they become the Thing, and they basically shunt Milo. And as you can see, that's not very clear. It's not very clear what the fuck is going on. It's pretty badly not drawn, but just told in the panels. I don't know why they would be vague about it, considering the movie went further. But anyway, Milo's fucking dead. And Billy's like pissed off about it. And he's like, well, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to, eat me too? And he's tied up. And that's when he gets to meet this chick here and the little girl here, who reveal that they are the brains of the operation, that the society has been run by this little girl and this woman who are, they have to hold hands basically, because one of them is mute and one of them has a brain and one of them doesn't. It's just this weird thing where they reveal that due to the society doing selective breeding so much through the years, all the way back to the beginning of time, that it's finally caught up with them. And now they're starting to have like deformities, kind of. So they have to like be together all the time so she can speak, because she's mute. And she doesn't really have a good brain, so they kind of use each other to be one being because of the inbreeding process. They're mongoloids in a way that you can't tell. And again, I don't know why her face is here. This whole thing, the paneling, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I just hate it. I'm trying not to bash this comic too hard, but Clarissa's from the first movie. She's Billy's girlfriend, and they revealed to Billy why they need him alive. And Clarissa was on the run with him for a while before she left, and she says, yeah, I didn't want to tell you, Billy, but I found out that the reason you were able to kill one of them and the reason why they still want you alive is because you're a half-breed. Your dad didn't survive the process, and your mother is actually my mother. So we're half brother and half sister, and we've been sleeping together. Incest. Yep. And that's why she's so messed up in the first movie. She's kind of not all there, is because she made it with a regular human being to create Billy. And the reason Clarissa got with Billy and she felt so like taken by him is because they're half brother and half sister. And Billy doesn't want to believe it. But the society says, well, Billy, we need you now because if we don't use you to help out our inbreeding process because you're a half-breed, you can kind of like cure the process through mating with us, and our shunting is the ritual. Then you can reset us. And Billy doesn't want to believe it. She says, I'm sorry, Billy. I love you, Billy. I'm sorry this is happening. And his old surrogate father that he was living with in the first movie says, welcome to society, son. And that's the end of the first issue, which, again, just like some of this just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. Like in the paneling when they're talking, it's like, why would you draw this? Like, for instance, think of it, you could get money, power, and love. Why is there just a room here with their hand going like this? Like, what a waste of a panel. Anyways, it sucks because I actually dig the art. It reminds me of Spawn, a little Salmon Twitch, a little Greg Capullo even. Maybe a little bit more zanier, a little bit more out there. But that's just the first issue, and they don't use the same artist on the second issue here. It is Neil Cameron, by script by Colin Barr, who also wrote the first one here. But Billy's thinking about it. The story is still slight nonsense. Billy is thinking about it, though, and Clarissa's trying to tell him, like, look, you know, it doesn't matter that I'm your half-sister. I'll always love you. And they're all trying to tell him, you know, to just join. And this is where they do the bigger... Clarissa and Billy have a conversation, how they were sleeping together and why she left him and their retarded mother, how he killed his father during the breeding process, the shunting. And this was his therapist from the first movie and his surrogate father from the first movie, or the movie, but this is the sequel. And he says, I always said you needed to bond with your family, Billy. And he says, Dr. Cleveland, glad to see you took your old shrink's advice all the way, it seems. And he punches him in the face, which leads to a very funny thing. And this art is kind of cool. And the art in this second issue actually is slightly better in a way in the storytelling. But I really dig this. I love this. I wish there was more of this. This is awful, though. I don't know who thought of this. Like in early 2000s, they're trying to describe the world as like power and freedom is what you could choose if you decide to become part of the society. This looks ugly. Please never do this again. Never do this in a comic book. If you're thinking of using computer graphics. Unless, you know, like it's something having to do with like the internet or you're in virtual reality, but just this by itself, this is ugly. But yeah, they're all pissed off because now that he is going to be one of them, his old dad calls him a freak and his therapist calls him a retard. But the weird inbred couple here that have to hold each other, they tell him, still trying to convince him, and even Clarissa, his ex-girlfriend / half-sister, you know, says, I know I make you sick, but I'll stand by you even if you want nothing to do with me. And Billy decides to use his therapist as a means of escaping. after he pretends that they'll shunt together, him, Clarissa, and his therapist, which means get naked and kind of become one. Kills him. Doesn't really make any sense why he tries to escape. Like, he wants to get back at the doctors and the nurses who killed Milo. And he pretends like he's going to fist him and kill him like he did the guy in the first movie. And he says that was the reason why he did all that. I guess it ties up a loose end in a way, but at the same time, it's just very weird and doesn't feel organic. And I'm not sure why he couldn't have just done it earlier in the first issue. But he rejoins the party and he tells them, you know, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking I might actually join, but you need to explain your situation to me. I've got 1 or 2 questions before I do this. And he's like, what's with the hand holding? I heard about Close, but did someone glue this kid to you? And she says, it's quite simple, Billy. This idiot here. She starts to go all by letting go of her hand. Has no real brain, so to speak, but is blessed with a voice. I, Ingrid, have no voice, but am cursed with a brain. So, mother and daughter? No, Billy. Twins? Perhaps. Brain and body, cruelly separated by an accident of inbreeding, one you are here to correct. Yeah, so how come you just don't grow yourself a working mouth? Because they can, like move around. Sadly, due to my problem, I am denied the luxury of shunting. For nearly 40 years, I have watched the magnificent fluid couplings of my kind. Every sinewy embrace and collective penetration has burned itself into my memory. Alas, my shunted form lacks the flexibility to fuse and be one with my kind, at least with the current stock. But she could get her first shunt if Billy joins. And they start getting naked. And they start shunting. They're like, it started. And that's when everything gets pretty gross. Gets pretty sexual. And they become this big pile of flesh. And they ask Billy to join. They say, don't worry, Billy, we'll be gentle. First time. And he becomes part of the sea of flesh. And the coupled kid and woman decide to join in. Yep, here we go. This is what it's about. So the art actually isn't bad here. The mess of moving in the flesh like this, I kind of actually dig it. This would always be something interesting to see how an artist would do, because the shunting is in the details in this case, where you would see the bodies becoming one. And I kind of dig how there's like hands here. It's like they're all reaching, but they're all also just kind of falling into being this weird mess of flesh. And Billy decides to deny them the luxury of correcting the inbreeding. And he reveals the same thing that they revealed to him earlier, when the doctor was saying how if someone had a disease, they would try to shunt it out of them before they consume them. And Billy says he put a disease inside of them. Basically what it is. Call him a backstabber. They say, can't believe you did this to us, Billy. And he leaves with his mother and half-sister as they start to become sick. It's crazy. And I could see the budget for this movie. If they were to make this into the movie, a sequel, it'd be impossible to afford this for what they did with the first one. But he kills one part of the society class. His sister Clarissa, half-sister, says, "What now?" "Well, I figured they're really pissed, so it's time to hit the road again." "No, Billy, what about us?" "Well, kid, I guess you're along for the ride." So I guess he's still going to be romantically involved with his half-sister. And the radio broadcast that he was talking to in the first issue, at the beginning, the narration of the orange and blue, the orange being the radio broadcast and the blue being Billy, it finishes here, and he just kind of says how, well, that's it, people. It's time to just continue going on and, with the party and my mission. And they say, "Any words for the fans, Billy boy?" "Just this. You can never tell what surprises life's going to throw at you, but one thing I do know you can trust is love, in whatever shape or form it takes." So that is the sequel to the movie Society. It's pretty gross, pretty disturbing. I'm glad I own these comic books still, because this was a blank spot in my horror comic book collection, and I really love the movie Society. While you might not love the comic books, I certainly didn't. This one over this one, although this cover is cooler. I would suggest again that go watch the movie. If you've already seen it, go re-watch it after this, and then put this together with it, and it's kind of one complete package. This one's a lot grosser. I think it's meant to be that way. But yeah, that is Society Party Animal. Thanks everyone for watching.